There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Pursuant to Rule 4.30, West moves that House File Number 4277 be recalled from the Committee on Children and Families, Finance and Policy, be given its second reading, be placed on the General Register.
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative West, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House File 4277 is Harvey's Law. And Harvey was almost 1 year old when he was suffocated at a child care center. And the Friday before that happened, the 911 was called because another child was found, a different baby was found not breathing. And they didn't know why. The following Monday, that same child was found not breathing again. And their parents came and took them home, and thankfully they were all right. But that same day, Harvey was literally suffocated. 3 different times, this individual put their hands on infants to harm them. And the 3rd time, they took a life. And because there were no cameras to document what happened, they were able to take a life. They had no idea what was happening, because who could ever imagine somebody deliberately suffocating an infant? Especially when they are the very person who is supposed to care for them. My daughter Sybil, among several other children, were abused at another daycare. Thankfully, the perpetrators both have felony convictions right now. They abused babies over months. Sybil's daycare did have cameras, so this was able to be discovered, and no baby lost their life. They didn't have to lose their life to know something was going on. But because they only retained the footage for 7 days, even the infant who had their leg fractured, they couldn't get felony convictions on Sybil or other, but they were able to get at least 2 felony convictions on one and 1 felony conviction on the other, because there were 2 perpetrators. And that one child that their charges went through to felony convictions, the only reason was because in that week of footage, they had that. They had a week of footage. But the doctor said the baby with the fractured leg, that happened several weeks ago. House File 4277 requires any child care center that receives taxpayer dollars to have cameras in their infant and toddler rooms. Because they can't speak for themselves. I'd love to see cameras in every room, but we're trying to minimize the impact on centers. So we keep it to just infant and toddler rooms. And it requires them to retain their footage for 28 days. This is something that we've debated. We debated it last year. We debated it this year. We made so many changes in the first edition that was passed last year to require cameras in infant and toddler rooms in centers with maltreatment violations, to require CCTV so they can be more secure, require data and audit trails on the data, on the footage that's retained, put money in a fund so centers could apply and have money to afford those cameras. And it is a relatively minor cost of a couple $1,000s, and then an ongoing cost of around $60 a month. And ever since it happened to my family, this has been my mission. And I thought I could just sit and let what was passed last year work, see how it goes, until Harvey. This bill has bipartisan support in the Senate. I've talked to so many people here on both sides of the aisle that agree with the bill. I have heard it over and over again. I've even heard that we should expand this to every room, every child care, everywhere. And honestly, I would like that too. But we have to work in incremental steps. We've had a lot of talk today about a lot of different bills. A lot of politics, of course. This is the most important thing to me anyways. And my hope is that we can move this from the committee to the floor, because it did fail to pass out of committee. It's only a paragraph bill, but we move it from committee to the floor. And, you know, this isn't one of those bills that everybody knows about that's going to be on, you know, that's going to affect the next election like we've heard of so many of these other bills. But if, I don't know, if the last bill, for example, is a deeply partisan issue that we've discussed 1,000 times, sincerely. But prior to that, House File 3435, you know, the federal immigration enforcement issue, like, I agree with many of you on the other side of the aisle, that was not handled well. And I'm glad Tom Homan is cleaning it up, and in particular, with what's happening in DC, they're reinstating the policy on federal immigration officers entering sensitive areas like churches, synagogues, and whatnot. I honestly, if you can work with me here, I can work with you on that. And I mean it. So if I could just get one, preferably everyone, we don't even need a roll call or anything like that, to move this forward just to the general register. We can continue to work on it prior to a vote on the floor. I would be willing to reconsider that and have it follow suit, House File 3435. Because so often we just get obsessed with getting votes here. And, you know, we've been talking for hours just to get votes, just to get votes, just to get votes. And that's not what this is about. So I'd ask you to join me. Thank you.
Further discussion to the motion. I recognize Representative Carly Katiza-Wattoon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, first, I want to again share my deepest condolences to the families that have shared their stories of abuse and loss with our committee. This proposal is well-intentioned, and House DFLers share the goal of protecting kids everywhere, including at child care centers. However, this proposal simultaneously goes too far and not far enough. This mandate only applies in child care centers and only in the centers that receive public funding. If cameras keep our kids safe, they should be put in all child care situations, including family child care and centers who choose not to accept public funds. On the other hand, the bill also allows centers to use cheaply made, easily hackable surveillance cameras, which would provide an ongoing stream of the most sought-after video footage on the black market of infants and children. On my desk, members, I have jackets for a task force on child care safety and surveillance. Representative Hansen brought this amendment to committee last year, brought it again to committee this year. Co-Chair West insinuated that the reason for a task force is to kill a bill. That could not be further from the truth here. If we are going to pass a first-in-the-nation surveillance mandate, we need to do it right. Last year, the Children and Families Committee worked on this first-in-the-nation camera mandate. And because of numerous concerns, particularly around child sexual abuse material and technical security issues, as well as what was initially an unfunded mandate to child care providers, we limited the scope of the mandate to those centers with active maltreatment investigations. The law hasn't even gone into effect yet. It begins July 1st of this year. We brought multiple amendments to committee, including a tiered implementation pilot program, similar to what Australia has implemented just this year. We also tried to include funding for child care centers to assist them in purchasing high-quality cameras to prevent hacking and prevent that video footage of infants and toddlers from turning into something vile, an abomination used by predators to abuse and assault our Minnesotans. It's unthinkable that our colleagues who just spoke so vociferously against pornography minutes ago would allow more potential harms to come to these children. I will forward you the 2026 AI Child Sexual Abuse Material Report from the Internet Watch Foundation. In the executive summary, they note that between 2024 and 2025, there was an increase in AI-generated child sexual abuse videos. Members, it was an increase of 26,385%. An increase in 26,000% of AI-generated child sexual abuse material. Please take the time to review the report. We need to ask ourselves, members, why doesn't a mandate like this yet exist in any other state and in hardly any other country? Is it because they have less child abuse in other states? We know that that's not the case. Is it because they care less about their children? Certainly not. It's because of the potential harms. And this bill is not the quick and easy answer to a very serious problem. Every child in Minnesota deserves to get off to a great start, and we all benefit when that happens. We should do everything that we can to keep our kids safe and not rush a proposal that cuts corners and could cause serious future harm. I invite you to consider signing on to that surveillance task force so that we can do this right. And members, I would urge a red vote on this motion. Oh, I would request a roll call, Madam Speaker.
A roll call has been requested. Seeing more than 15 hands, there will be a roll call.
Thank you.
Representative Katiza-Watun.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further discussion to the bill? I recognize Representative West.
My purpose was not to get political. I will withdraw my motion.
The motion has been withdrawn.